Greetings, and welcome back to the MCOC Encyclopedia. Today, we will be continuing our journey into Act 6, and by the end of this series, you should have everything you need to know to beat every quest. We won't be going for 100%, as I will just be covering which paths are easier. If multiple paths are an option, I will cover them all. Remember that this is just what I found easier, and your roster may vary. So let's dive in. Act 6, Chapter 1, Quest number 3, A Father's Concern. And here, his concern is very clearly for you, as this is the first quest in Act 6 that isn't a complete pain. The global in this quest is much kinder than in the first two, but there are still a few things we can do to benefit from it and to use it for our advantage. The boss has a few potential issues, but with a bit of knowledge he becomes relatively straightforward. The global node in this quest is Long Distance Relationship. While you are close to the opponent, you will gain weakness debuffs on you, reducing your attack rating by 10% each. Back off, and they'll fall away slowly. These weaknesses are indefinite whilst they are on you, so we can't use champions that reduce debuff duration, like Blade or Rogue, as a solution. The weaknesses that are applied here multiply your attack rating, rather than reducing it by a flat amount. This means that the first weaknesses will reduce your attack rating by more than the later ones. I have done some testing on this, and I'll leave my findings in the description if anyone is interested. We can, however, use these weaknesses to our advantage, and there are two primary ways of doing so. Firstly, they are just debuffs, so if you have willpower unlocked at this point, you will be getting nearly constant healing. You can end every fight in this quest at 100% health if you play carefully. Secondly, some champions can actually take advantage of having debuffs placed upon them. Kingpin will shrug them off and gain his rage, Baron Zemo will cleanse them and root the opponent, Jabari Panther can also cleanse them and that'll ramp up her charges, Awakened Crossbones will gain his furies, Mole Man will gain his monster mass, Elster Bloodstone converts them into precisions, etc, etc. They all gain a benefit from having debuffs on them, and many other skill champions can just shrug them off. Nick Fury on his heavy attack, Anti-Venom all the time, Aegon with just a few hits on his combo meter, Awakened Korg, and so on. To be clear, anyone can do long distance relationship. Just back off if and when the weaknesses stack up too high. These are just some of the champions that we can use to take advantage of the node. If your top champion hasn't been mentioned, you can almost certainly still use them. We can also prevent the weaknesses from triggering using ability accuracy reduction. Awakened Archangel and his Neuros, both Magnetos and their magnetism on metal champions, and anyone with concussion will work just fine here. This chapter is quite strangely laid out, but I would recommend taking either the innermost left path, through Deadpool, or the one out from that, the OG Vision path. Do not take the direct path. Yes, there are fewer defenders, but they are tough to get through and are extremely punishing. This is a trap. Avoid it. Each of the two paths have their pros and cons, and it will depend on your roster which one you take. If you have more mutants, I would suggest the inner path. If you have more science champions, then maybe the outer one is for you. Neither of these paths have local nodes, so the only node you have to deal with is the global, and that leaves your options fairly open. Looking for annoying defenders, the inner path has 3 Shrugger champions, Anti-Venom, Crossbones and Kingpin, as well as Thing, but if you bring a shrug-off counter, you should be fine. I have a full video on Thing as well. Apocalypse or Omega Red are excellent shrug-off counters, or a White Magneto pre-fight can be used as long as your attacker is a hero or a metal champion, as this will give you passive stuns on your parries that cannot be shrugged off. The outer path has OG Vision, which can be annoying if he doesn't want to throw his specials. White Magneto prevents many metal options being used, and Ant-Man and his glancing can really draw out the fight. Finally, we have Mordo, who can be a pain for a multitude of reasons. Personally, I would say the inner path is slightly easier, but it does depend on which champions you have available. The boss here is Ghost, and she's a bit of a joke. Most of her nodes just give her crits more damage, and she also has True Strike, but her crits can't be evaded anyway. Don't get hit, and you have nothing to worry about. If you do get hit though, those crits are really going to hurt. So the only node we really have to worry about here is Limber, which reduces your stun durations by 20%. This gives you sort of 4 to 6 parries before they are just too quick for you to get a hit in. This does also include stuns from other sources, such as specials, so watch out for this. This is a pretty easy node to play around, and Ghost specials are very easy to punish. Pretty much any champion can do this fight. If we use a White Magneto pre-fight again, we can completely ignore Limber, as the node doesn't reduce the duration of passive stuns. In the background footage, you can see me using this along with my rank 1 Groot. Again, any champion can work here, but Cosmics for class advantage or Shruggers to avoid long distance relationship are probably the best options. A few other options to consider then. We have our standard 4 of Hercules, Ghost, Quake and Kitty Pryde. Each in their own way can be extremely overpowered and can cover the vast majority of fights in the game. Lady Deathstrike gets most of her damage from her Rupture debuffs, and those deal damage based on her armor rating, not her attack rating. This means that even if we have 100 weaknesses on us, and our attack rating is basically 0, she can still deal significant damage. Finally, Awakened Captain America Infinity War has a chance to shrug off debuffs as long as you have a skill champion on your team. At SIG 200, this is a 100% chance. So what would my ideal team be? Well, really, we can use any champions, but let's try and get the best out of this node. I'm going to start with a Shrugger. You can use Nick Fury, Moleman, Zemo, etc., but I'll be using Kingpin. Slot number 2 for me goes to Joe Fixit or Hood for the support they give Kingpin via their synergy, and this gives them a 100% shrug off chance. This isn't wholly needed, as once we reach 8 debuffs they'll be removed anyway, but is nice to have. You could very easily fill this in for another Shrugger. Next, I'll bring an ability accuracy reduction option for a bit of diversity, and my champion of choice here is Archangel. I'll bring a Cosmic option for the boss, if we choose not to use Kingpin here, and my choice for this one will be Cosmic Ghost Rider. Finally, I will be bringing White Magneto for his pre-fight to get around the shrugging defenders and the Limber on the boss. So my ideal team would be Kingpin, Joe Fixit or Hood, Archangel, Cosmic Ghost Rider, and White Magneto. But you could really change this around. Zemo over Kingpin? Fine. Hyperion instead of Cosmic Ghost Rider? Works just as well. This is perhaps the easiest quest in 6.1, so we have plenty of room to work with. For what to use where, there isn't really a case of you should use this champion for this fight. Pretty much any of the main attackers I have chosen could do most, if not all, of this entire quest. I'm pretty sure Kingpin that could do the whole path without issue. Fairly soon after this video goes out, I will try and get up a short commentated video of me going through this path with the exact team I suggest. It'll be much more relaxed, but should hopefully give you some insight into how I look into getting around the issues. As always, remember this is story content, so it won't be going anywhere anytime soon. If you get stuck here and find yourself spending a lot of resources, stop and focus on something else. The monthly event quest and side quest are great places to pick up more materials, shards and units, as well as battlegrounds and the arena. So that's it. Everything you need to know to clear 6.1.3. Up next, as requested by you guys, is Gallon, and I also have 6.1.4 in the works. Keep an eye out for more announcements in the future so you can have your say in which champions are covered. I have also just set up a Discord server, linked in the description, so please go and join that. Hopefully it'll become a great place to get specific advice, make suggestions for future video topics, and just generally hang out. If you have any questions, please do leave them below, and, please do all the YouTube stuff. Thank you, and I will see you next time.